Hey, welcome back. All right. In theme three, even if we don't adopt these technologies, we still have to live among people who do. I always feel like we're talking about you're transported into a dystopia. It's like you make it this far in a particular week's videos, and there's sort of this sense of, okay, I need to make some adjustments to the way I live. But the reality is, most people aren't going to be taking this course, and so most people aren't going to be aware of this, and therefore you have to live among these people who are being shaped by technologies in ways that, for the most part, most of us are going to want to at least alter our relationship with. So, what does that look like? Even if we don't adopt these, we're still going to live among people with nature deficit disorder. So, all of those negative consequences I talked about um, in terms of being anxious, being depressed, not being able to concentrate as well, not being able to pay as much attention because they aren't connecting with nature in those ways that I know sounds kind of hippie-ish, but I mean there's science to back this up that getting ourselves back into that environment is is beneficial to the point of being necessary for us to properly function. Even if you do that, even if you start spending half of your time outside, you're still going to be doing school projects or working with people who aren't. And what that means is dealing with people who are more anxious and depressed than they need to be, which is pretty dark and dystopian. So that's a problem. Second of all, we are going to be living among individuals and not in communities. So we talked about in the last video the fact that these technologies tend to make us feel a little bit more like we're kind of going it alone against this vast world of strangers. So even if you get over that idea and you decide, hey, I actually don't have a reason to distrust people as much as these technologies tend to make me think, you're still living with a bunch of other people who tend to think that way. And it's what it means is you want to start creating collective action. You have to, I mean, it's not like you're not going to find anybody, but you're not going to find the number of people that our species is social. We are social animals, and the way we evolved was to solve problems collectively. It was not an individual's job to go out and hunt. You went out and hunted in a group. You went out and gathered in a group. You took care of children together. You protected each other from wild animals. Even if you decide that sounds like the way I want to live, it's not easy to find those people. Because there are far fewer of them. Most people consider themselves individuals first. Yeah, I have in here just so that you get this. Most people are more withdrawn and self-centered because of the technologies that we have. Okay, and third, and super depressingly, though we are the wealthiest country in the world, we're also the most violent country, at least the most violent, wealthy, non-war torn country. U.S. homicide rate, disgustingly, is 26 times that of other high income countries. 26 times is huge. Gun suicide rate is nearly 12 times higher. We have about 40,000 or roughly 40,000 gun deaths a year at this point in our history. And that doesn't mean that doesn't importantly, I'm not saying don't go buy a gun. What I'm saying is that we live in a society where many of us are going to be touched by gun violence in one way or another that is because that technology is employed in the way that it is. And we still have to live among people who, though I'm telling you, if you want to get a gun for personal safety, that's fine. You heard about the statistics about risk of homicide and suicide with a gun in the house. But again, that doesn't mean the majority of people have that problem. It just means there's a lot more of that violence, and we end up as a as a population being in touch with the results of that violence a lot more than we would otherwise. And you have to live in that. So even if you don't adopt these technologies, these are still the people that you have to live with and that you have to try to create your fulfilling life in the context of. All right, speaking of a fulfilling life, in the next video, we'll come back and we will conclude this with, thinking about how these technologies affect our experience and how they affect our ability to create a fulfilling life. I'll see you then.